The city is alive in a way that can only be described as electric. Neon lights bounce off skyscrapers, and the rhythm of the crowd hums, blending seamlessly with the pulse of the music. I've spent my whole career in this environment, planning massive concerts and festivals, thriving in the chaos of it all. People call me cool under pressure, but if they only knew the weight I carry from years past. Routine has become my sanctuary, something I hold on to when everything else feels like it might slip through my fingers. But even the safest routines can start to feel stale, and lately, I've been itching for something new, something challenging. Then the call comes, a chance to plan an exclusive event on Stage Island, a remote venue that's always intrigued me. The island itself has been a mystery in my mind. I've been there once, years ago, though the details of that time are strangely hazy. I remember walking its shores, hearing the crash of waves against jagged rocks, the feeling of being trapped between the vast ocean and something hidden on the horizon. But those memories are locked away in a corner of my mind, faint and elusive, as if something is deliberately keeping them from me. I've wanted to return ever since, not just to unlock the pieces of my past, but because deep down, I know this is where something special can happen. The venue itself, weathered stage set against the vast backdrop of the sea, feels like it could become legendary. It just needs the right touch. When we finally arrive, Stage Island is nothing like I remember. Maybe it's everything I've forgotten. The air is thick with mist, curling around the jagged rocks and clinging to the trees. The island feels watching, somehow. The dense forest stretches endlessly, its towering trees casting long, twisted shadows across the clearing where our boat docks. I can feel my pulse quicken, a slight unease crawling under my skin, but I force myself to push it aside. I can't afford to show weakness not in front of my team. They're excited. They're chatting about the setup, about the potential this place has. I envy their optimism. As I scan the island's coastline, my gaze falls on the strange symbols etched into the bark of some of the trees. I don't recognize them, but I don't need to. They have that unsettling look about them, like warnings, like they've been carved there for a reason. I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong here, but am determined to make this work. This event could be a career-defining moment for me. I have to focus on the bigger picture. Then, as if on cue, an elderly man steps forward from the edge of the mist. His face is weathered and deeply lined, his eyes sharp despite his age. He introduces himself as Tripwiddle and Hayes, one of the few remaining locals. 6 elderly people still live on the island, all seemingly out of place on such a desolate patch of land. Trip's voice is gravelly as he speaks to us. You've come to put on a show, eh? You're not the first to try. But mark my words, this place, it doesn't forget. It never forgets. He looks at me, and for a moment, I'm struck by how intensely his gaze lingers. Something about him unsettles me, like he knows something I don't. But I can't afford to let my nerves take over now. Well, be fine, I tell him, more to reassure myself than him. We've got everything under control. He doesn't smile, but the corner of his mouth twitches. Well, see, he murmurs, before slowly retreating back into the mist. We do meet with the others, spending a brief amount of time in the ramshackle village near the dock. The locals, what few, they're arrogant, much help. They speak in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously when they mention the island's past. They talk of Cannibals, some kind of cult, or a shipwrecked congregation that once called this place home. They say the island is cursed, and that those who stayed too long found themselves changed. The hike through the island feels longer than it should, the thick fog wrapping around us like a cold, damp blanket. The path is barely visible under the dense brush, and we have to push through overgrown trees and tangled vines that seem determined to keep us from reaching our destination. My team is ahead, chatting in their usual upbeat tones, but I can't shake the uneasy feeling crawling up my spine. The stage should be here, just beyond this next bend, but it's hard to tell. So much of the island has changed. The place is almost unrecognizable now, swallowed by nature. My memories of it are hazy at best, but I know it's here. I glance back at the other SME team, excited to begin work on the Eventhopping. They don't notice my hesitation. I'm supposed to be the confident leader, the one who knows this island, this project, inside and out. But the truth is, I'm not sure I remember it at all. Then, through the trees, I see it. The remnants of the stage. The sight hits me harder than I expect. There it is, half consumed by the earth and overgrowth. The wood warped and crumbling under years of neglect. The stage, once so proud, now looks like a forgotten ruin. The platform sits at the edge of the cliff, the same place it once did, but the majesty is gone. In its place is only decavines creeping up the columns, moss spreading over the floorboards, and the ones gleaming would now gray and splintered. I stop, frozen for a moment, and my team starts to gather around me. We found it, someone says, their voice filled with awe. It's still here. I can barely hear them. My mind is elsewhere. The memories come flooding back, faster than I can process them. I was here before, years ago. I remember now Samuel, my mentor, had brought me to this very island. He was the one who'd named it Stage Island, convinced that this remote, untouched place had the potential to host something extraordinary. He was the one who'd gathered a small team of craftsmen to build the stage. He had big plans, dreams of grand performances, of making this island a landmark. But the island, it wasn't as pristine as he believed. It wasn't as untouched. We had to search for the stage back then, too. Samuel insisted it was hidden away, as if it needed to be discovered. Like the island itself was waiting for the right moment. I remember trekking through the same overgrown path, unsure of where we were headed, but Samuel had a sense of certainty in his eyes, a belief that the island was more than just a venue, it was a place of destiny. The whispers had started soon after we arrived, the strange sounds in the trees, faint cries carried by the wind. I remember trying to laugh it off, but Samuel had grown fixated on the island's history. He began talking obsessively about the Cannibals, about the cult that had once lived here, of the wrecked ship that had brought them. He dug into every local legend, convinced there was a deeper connection to the island than we realized. I look at the crumbling stage again, trying to push those memories back. But they flood in, sharp and relentless. Samuel's behavior had become erratic. He withdrew from the team, from me. His obsession with the island's past grew darker, and the nights grew stranger. I remembered the sound of footsteps in the woods, when no one was there. The faint smell of something rotting in the air, and then Samuel disappeared. One night, without a trace. I had never spoken of it again. The horror of his disappearance, the feeling that the island had taken him, was something I buried deep within myself. I tried to forget. I told myself I was just a young intern, too inexperienced to understand the pressures of the job, too naive to see the warning signs. But now, standing here, the memories come rushing back, and I realize I never really forgot. The first night on Stage Island, the mist rolls in thick, shrouding the camp in an eerie silence. The only sounds are the rustling of the trees, and the occasional crash of a distant wave against the rocky shore. The team sets up camp near the stage, talking and laughing, their excitement palpable. I do my best to stay focused, keeping the project at the forefront of my mind, but there's something about this place that keeps pulling at me. As the night deepens, the laughter fades, and the unsettling quiet of the island settles in. It's the silence that gets to me first. Like the island itself is holding its breath. I tell myself I'm just being paranoid, but I can't shake the feeling that something is watching us, that we're not alone here. Around midnight, I hear it faint but unmistakable. A whisper, carried by the wind. It seems to come from the direction of the trees, distant but clear, like a voice calling out in the dark. I freeze, straining to hear, but there's nothing more. The others are asleep. They're breathing steady and unaware of the tension that's slowly creeping through the camp. I try to dismiss it, but my mind keeps returning to the sound, over and over. It's just the island, I tell myself. the wind playing tricks. The next morning, things start to take a darker turn. Footprints are found near the edge of the campsite. Heavy prints that don't match anyone's boots. No one can explain them. And there are no signs of animals in the area. They're too deliberate, too distinct. I brush it off, telling the team that it must have been from someone walking through in the night. But deep down, I know something's not right. Later that day, we find strange markings carved into the trees. Deep gouges in the bark that look almost like symbols, crude and jagged. Some of the markings are so weathered that they appear almost ancient, as if they've been there far longer than any of us. One of the crew members points to them, his voice shaking. "What do you think these mean?" I force a smile. "Probably just some old graffiti. This island's practically abandoned for years. People carve things all the time. But my own words don't convince me." That night, things take another unsettling turn. As I sit near the fire, I feel it against those eyes on me. A chill runs down my spine as I glance around. But the camp is silent. The others, too lost in their own conversations, to notice. That's when I catch it movement in the trees, just beyond the campfire's glow. A shadow, too large to be one of us, too quick to be natural. I blink, and it's gone. I stand up abruptly, heart pounding in my chest. Did anyone else see that? A few of the team members look around, their faces blank. "See what?" one asks, his voice flat. I hesitate, but the shadow was there. I saw it. But it's just a fleeting moment, just enough to raise the hairs on the back of my neck. "Nothing," I say quickly, forcing the words out. "Must have been the wind." But that night, I don't sleep. The shadows seem to move with the wind. The sounds of footsteps echo in my ears, even when no one's there. My thoughts circle back to the past, to the stalking, to that lingering sense of being followed that had haunted me for so long. My stomach twists with the memory. I never talked about it, never shared the terror of being watched. A feeling like someone was always just a step behind. No matter how fast I ran, the feeling that something, someone, was waiting to catch up. As I lie awake, the whispers return. This time, they're louder, clearer, as if the island itself is speaking to me. Emma, the voice is faint but unmistakable. I sit up in bed, heart racing. No one else seems to hear it, but I can't shake the sensation. The feeling that something is drawing closer. I try to brush it off as paranoia, a result of the stress, the isolation, the history of the island. But deep down, I know it's more than that. And whatever happened to Samuel, I have a sinking feeling that the island isn't finished with any of us yet. The unease that had been growing since our first night on Stage Island begins to boil over. It starts subtly, with small things that can be dismissed, whispers in the trees, flickering shadows just out of the corner of your eye, the occasional creak of the stage's decaying wood in the stillness of the night. But soon, it becomes undeniable. Something is stalking us. The creature whatever it is moves in the darkness, an unseen predator that seems to thrive in the shadows. It's clever, patient, always just out of reach. No one can confirm they've seen it, but the terror it instills is unmistakable. We begin to feel it like an electric current in the air, a weight pressing on our chests, squeezing the breath from our lungs, and then it strikes. The first to go is one of the crew members, Jake, a tall, broad-shouldered man who usually radiates confidence. I remember the way he had laughed off the strange noises the night before, brushing it off as nothing but the wind. But when we find him the next morning, something is wrong. Haze, not Dedna. It's worse than that. His eyes are wide open, terror frozen on his face, and his mouth hangs open in a silent scream. His body is drained of all color, a cold, lifeless shell. There was no sign of struggle, no wounds, just fear. We search the area for clues, but it's as though he vanished into the night. No footprints, no sign of what took him. It's impossible to explain, but the unease settles deeper into my bones. We were being watched, yes, but now we know it's something worse, something that thrives on fear. It happens again, just days later. Lisa, one of the younger members of the team, is found near the forest edge. She's crouched low, eyes wide with terror, her body trembling. Her clothes are torn as if she had been dragged through the underbrush. But there's no sign of what attacked her. She doesn't scream when we find Hirsch can't. Her voice is gone, hoarse, as though she's been whispering for too long. When she finally speaks, it's barely above a whisper. It knows us. I don't have to ask her what she means. But even then, there's no clear form. No shadowy figure we can confront. No monster we can fight. It's as if it shifts with the night itself, blending into the darkness, slipping through cracks in the world and using our fears against us. I begin to notice a pattern in these attacks, a terrifying consistency that sends a chill crawling down my spine. The creature isn't just striking randomly. It preys on the weakest points in each of us. It's drawn to fear, to vulnerability, like it can smell it in the air. The morning light breaks through the fog, offering no comfort. Jake sits in a corner of the camp, his eyes wide and empty. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, his body rigid, his hands shaking. Lisa sits beside him, her gaze distant, lost. Both of them are trapped in their own silent nightmares, haunted by whatever terror had gripped them in the woods. The rest of us are numb. There's no argument, no debate. The decision to leave is unanimous. We need to go, someone murmurs, their voice shaking. We can't stay here. Not after this. The others agree. Everyone moves quickly, packing in silence. No one knows what to say. The fear hangs heavy, suffocating. We need professional help, another voice suggests, laced with desperation. A doctor, a psychiatrist, we're not all right. I glance at Lisa again, but I can't speak to her. She's here, but not really. The others are already making preparations to leave, their faces pale, eyes wide with fear. I should go with them, but I can't. I can't just run. Not when I know the creature is still here, waiting. If we leave now, it will follow us. I stand up slowly and walk toward the cliff, passing the others without a word. I don't look back. I know what I need to do. At the base of the cliff, the sea cave calls to me. The waves crash below, deafening, but I push forward. Something deep within me urges me to find the answers, to understand what's happening on this island. Inside the cave, the air is thick with salt and earth. My fingers brush over the markings etched into the stone, and a hum fills the space around me. The island stirs beneath me, alive with its dark history. The symbols tell the story of a cannibal tribe that once lived here, using dark rituals to summon a malevolent entity. The creature that haunts this island isn't just a protector, it's a manifestation of their fear. The more I understand, the clearer it becomes. The creature is tied to the island, to the land itself. It was summoned to guard them, but it has outlived them, growing more powerful. Feeding on fear, there's a way to weaken another set of symbols beside a central figure. A ritual. The air in the cave is thick with tension as I run my fingers over the symbols, trying to process what I've uncovered, but then something stops measurement that makes my blood run cold. Half buried in the corner, shrouded in moss and dirt, is a skull. I bend down, my heart racing, and pull it from the earth. It's Samuel's. His face. His eyesol of it flashes before me, memories of the man I once looked up to. He led us here, to this cursed island. He built the stage, named the island, knew. He must have known what waited for us, what would come for him, and in the end, the creature took him just as it had claimed the others. I hold the skull in my hands, my fingers trembling with a mixture of anger and grief. Hayes gone, and I couldn't save him. But I can't let his death be in vain. I refuse to let him become another forgotten casualty of this island. The locals never come here. They avoid this part of the island entirely. They know. They understand something about this place that we don't. And now, I see a toothed creature is tied to the land itself, to the shadows that linger beneath the trees. They'll leave and they'll forget, thinking they're safe, but I can't forget. I place Samuel's skull gently on the ground, my resolve hardening. I will finish what he started. The others are leaving. They're taking Jake and Lisa with them, Beth. Them too traumatized to be of any help now. They're broken, lost in their own fear. But they'll go. They'll find their doctor, their psychiatrist, and they'll move on. I can't. Not while this creature is still out there, waiting for the next group to step onto its island. I can't let it continue. Not after what happened to Samuel. I look around the cave one last time, feeling the weight of the history pressing down on me. This island, its darkness, its terror has a grip on my soul now, and I won't let it consume me like it did Samuel. I won't leave without ending it. I stand up, my heart pounding, and step toward the symbols carved into the cave's walls. The ritual, I have everything I need to perform it. The others will leave, and they'll be safe. But I can't leave without taking the creature down. With one final glance at the exit, I turn and begin to prepare. I know the risks, but for Samuel, for all of you have to do this. The cave is still, and the air feels thick, suffocating, as though the island itself is holding its breath. My heart pounds in my chest as I stand before the symbols, each line, each curve burned into my mind. I know what I need to do. The creature is close. I can feel its presence like a shadow in the darkness, pressing against the edges of my mind. It knows I'm here. It's waiting, but I'm ready. I have to be ready. I trace the symbols again, murmuring weirdly, just letting myself interpret the almost musical notes. The words that feel like they have a power that's been dormant for centuries, waiting for someone to awaken it. I close my eyes, centering myself, and when I open them again, I can see the energy in the earth way, the symbols pulse, faintly glowing, as though they're coming to life beneath my fingers. The creature growls, its presence shifting just behind me. I don't turn to face it. Not yet. I can't afford to show fear. I press on, my voice steady as I chant louder, the words wrapping around me like a cloak. I can feel the ground tremble beneath my feet, as though the island itself is reacting to the ritual. The dark forces that have kept this creature alive for so long. A scream shreds through the air, deafening, and I finally turn. The creature stands before Mahulkin, dark, its twisted form a nightmare come to life. Its eyes glow with an unnatural light, and its claws scrape against the stone floor, making the cave reverberate with an eerie, unnatural hum. It's angry, desperate, but weakened. The ritual is taking hold. I know what I must do. I don't hesitate. My mind clears, and everything around me becomes razor-focused. With a burst of courage I didn't know I had, I reach for the final symbol, one marked. On the stone near the base of the cave, the creature shrieks, stumbling back, but it can't escape. Its form flickers again. Weaker now, the symbols pulling it, binding it to the earth where it belongs. Its movements slow, and I can see its strength draining. The malice and terror that once filled the air now replaced with a desperate, confused energy, and then, with a final, deafening roar, the creature collapses. Its form disintegrates into nothingness, fading into the very stone beneath my feet. Silence descends. I stand there, gasping, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. The island feels quieter. The oppressive weight of its dark presence is gone. For the first time since we arrived, I feel a sense of peace. I reach the dock on the other side of the island, finding them waiting for our boat. They look up at me, their faces filled with disbelief, as if they can't quite process it, but they don't argue. They don't question me. They nod. The island feels different now. Less alive, less hungry. I can breathe again. As we sail away, the island fades into the distance, swallowed by the mist. I glance back once, feeling a twinge of so many things it is facty, maybe, but also a quiet sorrow for everything that happened here. The city feels so different now. The constant hum of life, the lights, the noise, it's all the same, but I don't feel the same. I walk through the streets, but the weight of Stage Island still presses on my chest, suffocating me. Every step is heavier than the last, as though the island has attached itself to me, a shadow I can't shake. The memories haunt me of the creature, of Samuel, of the terror that gripped us all. Those moments, those images, are etched in my mind, vivid and unrelenting. The screech of the creature's cry, the dark shadows in the trees, the feeling of being hunted, all still there. It's as though I never truly left the island. But I don't let it control me. I push myself back into my route and back into the life I had before. The event coordinator role I've always loved feels like the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. I immerse myself in the whirlwind of work meetings, deadlines, managing logistics. The familiar chaos of organizing music festivals offers a fragile sense of comfort, even if a part of me is still trapped on that island, confronting the same terror again and again. Every time I step into a new venue, I feel a flash of unease, as though I might walk into a place that hides something worse, something waiting. I won't let it win though, not this time. The people I work with don't know about Stage Island. They don't know what happened, and I'm not about to tell them. I can't. The weight of the island's horrors feels too heavy to share with anyone. It's something I have to bear alone. At night, it's worse. The nightmares return, vivid and relentless. The creature's eyes, its twisted form, the crushing sense of hopelessness, it all chases me through my sleep. I wake up, heart pounding, drenched in sweat, feeling like the terror has followed me out of my dreams and into the waking world. But I get up every day. I keep going. I have to. I've learned something from what happened on Stage Island. I've learned that strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about moving forward despite the fear, despite the memories that threaten to consume me. I don't know if the nightmares will ever stop, if the images will ever fade. I don't know if I'll ever forget what I faced. Some fears don't fade. They linger in the dark corners of your mind, always there, always waiting. Stage Island will never truly leave me. It will always haunt me, in my dreams, in the quiet moments, in the spaces between breaths. But I keep going, because I'm still here. I'm still here.